be the premier part of this program for our August luncheon, is the candidate forum. So with that, let's get started. If you would join me, please stand where you are. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I will lead that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So, glancing at the agenda here, obviously our luncheon sponsor is Whitby Tech Solutions. They do wonderful work not only throughout the community, but they do it here for our local chamber. And so I am going to turn it over. Is it you, John? I saw you on the meeting.
Yes.
So Mr. John Diamond, I'm going to turn it over. I think technically your title is Chief of Operations at Whitby Tech Solutions?
Yeah, Chief Operating Officer, yes.
Super. Take it away, Mr. Diamond.
All right. Thank you all very much. I'm going to share with you just a brief PowerPoint. For those of you that don't know me, I feel like I probably know most of you. For 10 years prior to coming to Whitby Tech, I was the Technical Services Manager at ICOM 911. And I joined Whitby Tech Solutions as the Chief Operating Officer in December, and supporting Josh Blackburn and the work that the company does here in the community. So let me just share some, one moment. Vicki, it's not letting me share my screen.
Autumn, if you cancel. Okay.
Oh, here we go. Now I can. Let me start this. Okay, can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet.
All right.
Good morning. Good morning.
Okay.
All right, John, try that now. Try that and see if it will allow you.
Okay. You would think I wouldn't have technical difficulties.
I was going to say, it makes me feel so good that the technical person is having trouble. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I think this is the right screen.
Hey.
There we go. Okay. I think you can see that now. So Whitby Tech Solutions, we are a managed service provider for technology. We provide, as you can see from these icons, a multitude of technological services so that you as small business owners can focus on your business and the reason you're in business to provide the services that you do. You shouldn't have to worry so much about your technology. But we know that many companies don't have the resources, especially small and medium-sized businesses, to have their own internal IT folks. So that's what we do. We provide IT services for your business. One of the things that's a big focus right now is how secure businesses are as it relates to cybercrime, phishing, hacking, things like that. A lot of people don't often take the time to update their computers, keep everything up to date for their security and needs like that. That's something that we as a company manage for you. And especially in today's world, with remote work as it is, there's a lot more of that. How do you make sure that all of your files, programs, and data are securely available to your workers remotely? We can assess your network and your systems need to make that a reality for you and your company, to make you as efficient as possible during this time. In most cases, we can connect you to your work systems remotely from anywhere, as long as you have an internet connection. Another thing we do is expert planning. I know that no one, especially in our size of businesses, likes to get hit with a bill for our technology of several thousands of dollars, tens and $20,000, $30,000. all at once. So we do our best to help you plan and budget for a replacement cycle that meets your budget so that you're aware of what's going on. Then we also plan your email, your backups, and things like that, and all of your applications, and we can integrate and actively work with your third-party vendors as well. We also specialize in disaster recovery and backups, maintaining backups for your systems. The big question here is how quickly can you get back from an incident where you've lost data or lost a system? And we are here when and where you need us. If you need remote assistance, we can do that. If you need in-person assistance, we can surely do that. We feel like your employees should be able to focus on your customers and not have to lose any productivity by focusing on technology. So if you're in need of any of that, feel free to give our office a call. We can send someone out to do an assessment with you, to talk over your technology, to see where your pain points are, what your needs are, and things like that. So I should have left that up a little bit longer. So that's kind of in a very quick nutshell. I know we have other important things to get onto, but that's what Whitby Tech Solutions does and provides for our community and for the small businesses here. And I believe that is it, Vicki. Thank you so much. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, John. Go ahead, Vicki.
I was gonna say, thank you so much, John. I really appreciate that. Okay, Ms. Autumn, we're gonna flip it over to you. Joe, did you have a question?
Nope, I'm going to turn it over to our very capable Executive Director, Vicki Graham, to run through the rest of this, and then we'll get into the forum. Thank you, Vicki.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, before we get going too much, I'd like to ask everyone, we're going to take a quick moment of silence in honor of our dear friend Ron from Paint Your World Downtown. So just like to have everybody just take about 30 seconds just in honor of Ron. Okay, very dear man. He's going to be truly missed in this community. He's done a whole lot for us, so our hearts are breaking right now. Okay, Autumn, next slide. So we're also in the middle of our shop local. We're playing bingo. So if you get, bingo, you bring your card to the chamber and you get the lovely mask that says #WhitbyStrong. This is sponsored by Regency on Whitby, so thank you very much, Regency, as well as you see our sponsors on the bingo cards too. So go out, shop local, promote our small businesses. Let's stay local and let's, relieve everyone here. Let's get everybody back to where we need to be before we try to go off the island. So thank you very much on that. Open Air Thursday is tonight from 3 to 7 downtown. Social distancing, we have doubled the foot traffic downtown. It's been amazing. It's from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. And then we're flipping up our used to be membership matters that we had. So the first Tuesday of every month is going to be Chamber 101. So we're going to go back in and teach you what Chamber Master can do for your business, because we've noticed a lot of members don't even realize that that's their form and the options that you have with Chamber Master. So we're going to go back to 101 and show you how to go through and how to advertise on your pages and all to help you out. And then next is show your spirit. With everything that's going on, we're pretty sure that, we're not going to get to do our traditional trick-or-treating. So we are going to do a drive-through trick-or-treating here at the chamber. So if anyone would like to drop off any little goodies, any candy or anything you'd like to add to the bag, we're going to make them up, and we're going to have a safe social distancing Halloween drive-through through the chamber. We're also going to have a Harry Potter trivia night. So we're going to do that on the Monday, the 26th of October before Halloween. So just to have a little fun and get everybody involved. And then check out our new video. If you didn't get visited by our lovely dinosaur, It was so much fun. We had so much fun making this video. It was worth just going around town and just letting everybody laugh and just release a little bit of pressure from all, everything that we're going through with this pandemic. So it was absolutely amazing. So thank you everyone who participated. Don't forget, September Business of the Month went out this morning. So please fill out your ballot and get it back over to us. And now we're going to move on to our Business of the Month. So congratulations to Small Business of the Month, Ace Hardware. So congratulations for being nominated Small Business of the Month. Ace Hardware, all your needs, they've got any tool you can think of, and they're doing an awful lot to help out during this pandemic as well. Our Large Business of the Month goes to Walmart. All your needs, thank you for having toilet paper when we needed it most of the time. So it's a big event. Welcome new members. We have Advanced Management and Whitby Island Lions Club. So welcome to the chamber. We really appreciate all our members. Without you, we can't be us. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here and being involved. I apologize for that because I'm watching people jump in it too. So on to why we're really here now, I'm going to turn it over to our mediator. It was Mr. John Jensen from Sound Sports Net. So let's have a game.
Vicki, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Oak Harbor Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum. The Chamber thanks the candidates you will hear from today for presenting why they should be your choice in November's election. And our appreciation likewise goes to you who are here today to listen, to participate in our great democratic process, and to cast votes on November 3rd based on your informed evaluation of the candidates. Participating in today's forum will be from District 10, Washington State Senator Challenger Helen Price Johnson and Senator Ron Muzzal. Washington State Representative 10th Congressional District, Position 1, Angie Homola and Challenger Greg Gilday. For Washington State Representative 10th Congressional District, Position 2, Challenger Bill Bruch and incumbent State Representative Dave Paul. County Commissioner District 1, candidates are Melanie Bacon and Damian Green. County Commissioners District 2, candidates are Challenger Dan Evans and incumbent Commissioner Jill Johnson.
John, Joel here. Sorry, I had to break in real quick. We need to correct Mr. Bruch's last name. It's Bruch, not Brunch.
Okay. Bill Bruch. Got it. That was a typo. That's what I was on the read. Thank you, Joel. In the interest of time, the candidates will not be able to respond to questions from the floor. However, I'm sure that they will be willing to make themselves available following the program. The procedural format will go as follows. For each of the races, the order of candidate responses and closing was determined by opponents and then incumbents. That order will maintain through responses to questions and also for closing statements in the following order. District 10 for Washington State, Senator Challenger Helen Price Johnson and incumbent Senator Ron Muzzal. For Washington State Representative 10th Congressional District, Position 1, Angie Homola and Challenger Greg Gilday. For Washington State Representative 10th Congressional District, Position 2, Challenger Bill Bruch and incumbent State Representative Dave Paul. County Commissioner District 1, candidates are Melanie Bacon and Challenger Damian Green. County Commissioner District 2, candidates are Challenger Dan Evans and incumbent Commissioner Jill Johnson. At this time, we invite the state senator candidates to prepare, and while they get situated, we'll go over the following procedures. The procedures will be completed for each pair of candidates in the following order. 3 questions will be asked for each candidate, 1 question at a time. Each candidate in the order I just described will have 2 minutes to respond to each question. Time will commence at the moderator's call to begin. Our time clock will begin when your time runs out. The candidate is to cease his or her response whether or not it has been completed. This courtesy is essential to the fairness of the forum. One challenge will be provided for each candidate, allowing that candidate to challenge the remarks of his or her opponent at the conclusion of the opponent's response at that time. The challenging candidate will then have 30 seconds to state their challenge. And the challenge candidate will have 30 seconds to respond to the challenge. The timers will signal the end of both the challenge and the response. Each candidate is entitled to one challenge total, not one challenge on each question. Following responses by all candidates to all questions and to any challenges, each candidate will have 90 seconds for closing comments. Timer cues will again be given. We acknowledge that politics in general and the issues surrounding elections can be sources of emotion and sometimes strong disagreement among the candidates. The objective of this forum is to give each candidate the opportunity to address the constituency present on their responses to the questions asked. Both the candidates and the audience are requested to extend each candidate the opportunity to speak and be heard on these issues. Senator candidates, Ms. Helen Price Johnson will respond first. For Helen, your first question: if elected to office, what impact do you hope to achieve for our community and the state?
Well, thank you to the Oak Harbor Chamber for this event. Local voters have elected and re-elected me 5 times because I have a record of strong leadership and achievement, and I represent all the people, not just one party. I know that our people here need action and advocacy and not excuses. But doing the right thing for the right reason is the metric that I use in my decision making. I care deeply about my hometown, and I'm someone who rolls up her sleeves to get the work done. As your senator, I'll prioritize protecting the public's health and containing the spread of this virus, supporting local schools, parents, teachers, and students to stay safe and get the education they need to thrive, and strengthening our local safety net to keep people from falling into crisis. But this pandemic is not our only crisis. We also have a crisis of workforce housing. We need to expand access and preserve our environment. We need affordable quality childcare and early learning programs to close the opportunity gap for all of our kids. And we need to expand healthcare services, including mental health services for our aging population. And right now, we need to create jobs through infrastructure investments in transportation, green energy, and broadband projects. As a senator, I can hit the ground running using all the experience that I bring to this job, my network of local elected officials, and bipartisan support. It's not just in Olympia, but back home too. As your next senator, I'll continue the work I've done as a county commissioner and expand the impact I've already achieved as an advocate for our communities. Thank you.
And now the same question for Ron Muzzal. If elected to office, what impact do you hope to achieve for our community and state?
I think you're muted, Ron.
Sorry about that. Hopes and dreams
right.
are great. Hopes and dreams are great, just not very practical when it comes to governance. I'm a data-driven decision maker. I just don't feel comfortable making decisions that affect real people and organizations without having sound data to make these decisions on. Anecdotal evidence is nice, but often it is emotion-driven and not always dependable. Unintended consequences are the bane of government, and all too often are the result of poor or no data. The important tenets of successful business and government are structure, discipline, and accountability. Our state government lacks all 3. Too much of the legislative oversight has been removed. This needs to be restored. The legislature needs to be more disciplined in its oversight, and then the legislature needs to hold individual departments and the governor accountable for lack of performance. I have begun by demanding our state auditor perform a complete audit of the Employment Security Department. They have agreed. The losses incurred by ESD are unacceptable, and as a representative of the constituents, I need to know how it was allowed to happen. This department and many others report directly to, and their leadership is appointed by the governor. The legislature controls the budget for these departments, but have almost no control over them. Yet we depend on them to bring us the information to appropriate tax dollars. They continue to fail to bring us timely information and then expect us to continue to further fund their failures. We have large challenges in the DOC and DSHS that we need to address. However, we need the structure and discipline in these departments to spend dollars wisely and treat these wards of the state with compassion and respect. Instituting accountability in all parts of our state government will have wide-ranging positive impacts on our efficiency. Our state government belongs to us individually, not parties, groups, or big donors.
Thank you.
No challenges? Seeing no challenges, we'll proceed to the second question for Helen. We are all aware of how the coronavirus has had a devastating impact on our lives. What are your plans to help businesses recovering from COVID-19?
Well, actually, I'm doing this work already. I lead the Economic Recovery Task Force that's been partnering with our local communities, including Oak Harbor. The Island County Commissioners dedicated $2 million to small business grants and safety net services, and we're putting out more than 150 grants to local businesses, and we've had more than 500 contacts to help our veterans, our families, and our businesses through these crises. But we don't have enough resources to meet this growing need, and I'll fight to do more and target these resources to our area. The first thing we need to do is all do what we can to reduce the spread of this virus. We have to wear masks, keep distance, and wash our hands. As a senator, I'll focus our attention on delivering more small business grants so our economy can open safely and retain local businesses and employment opportunities, provide PPE and other supplies so employees and customers can stay healthy, implement a B&O tax holiday to ease the burden on our smallest businesses, and expand broadband access so employees can work from home and more businesses can transition to online platforms. Hey, I understand how hard it is to survive as a small business owner. Pour your life and soul into your business, scraping through hard times and looking out for your employees as if they were your family. You see, I own a small business, and in fact, my family has owned small businesses on Whitby Island for 3 generations. Right now, our small businesses are struggling, and they need our help to survive. They need a senator who will fight for them, and we need the resources at the local level to get through this together as a community, and you can count on me to do that. Thank you very much.
Now the same question for Ron. We are all aware of how the coronavirus has had a devastating impact on our lives. What are your plans to help businesses recovering from COVID-19?
It isn't necessarily the government's job to help business, but to avoid hindering business. This comes in all forms, including overtaxation and overregulation. The current pandemic is a perfect example of overregulation by mandate. We have not seen the spread of the virus by retail establishments that were allowed to remain open as long as proper protocols were followed. The tardiness of opening other businesses and expecting proper protocols will have long as proper protocols were followed. This will have a long-term impact on our economy. The hospitality industry expects to lose 1/3 of its restaurants. With 300,000 employed in the industry, this will have long-term impacts as well. We continue to learn about the virus, including its lack of viability on contact services. However, we don't seem to evolve our requirements as rapidly as we should. Until we have a good understanding of the budget constraints of the state government, we cannot definitively say what we are going to be able to do to positively impact the businesses in our state. Money doesn't grow on trees. We continue to call for a special session to address these issues. Unfortunately, neither the governor or the majority party will help call a special session. We need the representations of the constituency to be involved in the process.
Challenges? Seeing no challenges, we'll proceed to our third and final question for Helen. If you could ask your opponent one question, what would it be?
Well, I again want to thank Oak Harbor Chamber for hosting us today. I'm really very proud of the broad base of community support that I've received in my campaign. In fact, over 1,000 individuals have opened up their pocketbooks and contributed their hard-earned dollars to help see me get elected. But Ron, you say you stand up to special interests, yet when I look at your campaign finances, I see over 50% of your support coming from some of the most powerful special interests in our state. That seems like all hat and no cattle to me. So I'm hoping you can explain that.
And now the same question for Ron. Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead, Ron.
Okay. If you could ask your opponent one question, what would it be?
Ron gets to answer her question.
Okay. Answer the question. My apologies. Ron, proceed.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, of all people to say all hat and no cattle, I could turn the computer around and show you an awful lot. The reality is that a 10-month incumbent needs to raise dollars, and my opponent started off way ahead of me. In fact, a year ahead of me. The truth of the matter is that our campaign needs money from wherever it can get it. But like I've told all people, your money doesn't necessarily mean that I will agree with you on every subject. And those who've been in business with me or been on boards with me know that inherently I make decisions based on my own moral compass. The truth of the matter is that funding is difficult, especially during a pandemic. And we have refused some donors, but the reality of life is that it takes money to make the world go round, and especially a campaign. And I don't have any problems accepting the money. Just they all know that it's not, does not mean a yes from me.
And now, the same question for you, Ron. If you could ask your opponent one question, what would it be?
Commissioner Price Johnson, partisan politics has eroded the ability of government to effectively do its job. The name calling and hyperbole has reached epidemic proportions. What are you going to do to overcome this lack of forward motion and effectively represent LD10 in our state government?
Thanks, Ron. I'm actually very proud of the many Republicans and Democrats who've supported my work as a county commissioner and endorsed me in this campaign. I'm a past president of the Washington State Association of Counties, where most of the members are Republicans. They know that I work hard to find bipartisan solutions and bring people together to collaborate and find common sense solutions that'll serve our communities. You can count on me to do what's right for the right reason. Not because it's a party politics. I think that that's what the voters in the 10th legislative district expect. We're a very diverse political opinion district. We are a purple district, and that means you got to listen to everybody and represent everybody. I've proven that I do that as a county commissioner. I serve with civility and common sense solutions. Thank you.
Closing remarks. First to Helen.
Well, thank you again. I want to, you don't have to wonder what kind of an elected official I'll be. You have seen me. I've served 2 terms on the school board and 3 terms as a county commissioner. I work across party lines. I'm a strong advocate for our community, and I've dedicated my life to serving the place that I love the most. I work hard, I listen well, I seek common sense solutions for the good of all. I bring a strong network of support from across the county, the region, and the state. Many people across party lines have endorsed my campaign, and I hope you will too. Please go to my website at helenpricejohnson.org. Our voters want a senator who'll stand up to do what's right, who'll serve with heart, humility, strength, and integrity. I'm a small business owner, a woman of faith, a wife, a mother of 4, a grandmother of 3, and a leader. This is the time for experienced leadership. I've been in the trenches during tough budget decisions, and I can do that in Olympia for you. It's time for us to give them Helen in Olympia. I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Now closing remarks from Ron.
I'm the fourth generation here on the farm. The fifth generation is vested, and the sixth generation is growing up. Family farms don't happen. They are a matter of perseverance. I've also spent 30 years on boards of fire districts, farmer co-ops from 100 million to 15 billion. I've worked around the country and around the world and serving in those positions. Upon arriving in Olympia, I was disappointed at the lack of forward motion that was happening there. The partisan politics, but also the fact that we've had the same party in power for 35 years in Olympia has led to a bureaucracy that is failing the most vulnerable citizens of our society. When you hear the stories of inmates or foster children or any of the others that are wards of the state, you realize the system is broken. We have to step up to the bureaucracy that Olympia has become and make a difference. And that's where I hope to have the biggest impact. Thank you for the opportunity, and please vote for a conscience. Thank you.
That concludes the questions for candidates for Senator. Thanks to each of you for your commitment to community service and for being here today. And now for the candidates for State Representative, 10th District, Position 1. For Washington State Representative, 10th Congressional District, Position 1, Angie Homola, and challenger, Greg Gilday. For Angie, first question: if elected to office, what impact do you hope to achieve for our community and state?
Thank you so much, Chamber of Commerce. To me, supporting the people and the places that they love here in the 10th LD means championing policies that will advance affordable housing and housing the homeless, public and mental health care, environmental protections and action on climate change, and fiscal responsibility, fair taxation, and living wage jobs. These goals can only be achieved with a stable and fair tax structure, long-range planning, and a government that serves in the interests of the many over the pockets of the few. Having served as county commissioner during the Great Recession and as a small business owner, I know that the build or bust economy is volatile and does not promote quality of life or reduce taxes. I will advocate an independent economic study to evaluate our existing tax structure and alternatives, one that engages the electorate and enables them to make their own informed decision about the right tax structure. Our district depends heavily on the military, which tangentially creates many low-wage service sector jobs. More federal impact aid and job diversity are needed. Fishing, farming, and aquaculture thrive here, and I'd like to see these and other like-compatible industries expand. I have and will promote legislation supporting sustainable farms and fields, tax relief for small businesses, healthcare services, and affordable low-income housing. Growth and thoughtful land use planning will benefit our Oak Harbor economy, its well-being, and it will help our property values and tourism. This will also promote mixed use and open walkable communities, and as long as we have a connection visually and to the waterfront and physically. I'd like to implement a Washington Civil Service Corps similar to the CCC that this nation had during the Great Depression, and I will offer several branches of different aptitudes. Its projects would build essential infrastructure, including transportation, communication networks, and utilities, and they will increase healthcare services and build cutting-edge.
And now, same question for Greg. If elected to office, what impact do you hope to achieve for our community and state?
Well, first, thank you to the Chamber for having this. I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to you. So I'm going to focus on good schools, good government, and good roads. My main goal is to help bring balance to Olympia, because for far too long, one-party control has run amok, and there's no accountability down there. We can see this in the recent example of the Employment Security Department, which allowed between $600 million and $1 billion to be taken by Nigerian scammers, and the head of the department still has her job. Another example of where one-party control has fallen apart is Seattle. I mean, look at it, it's collapsing. So as far as schools go, I know this may be unbelievable to some, but the Democrats have consistently underfunded education. We know this since the state lost a Supreme Court case in McCleary, which held that Democrat-passed state budgets significantly underfunded schools. Public education is the paramount duty of the state, and if the other side remains in control, they're going to start underfunding education again in order to fund their priorities. I agree with the American Academy of Pediatrics that stresses the primary goal of education policy should be getting kids back to in-person learning, which is fundamental to a child's development and well-being. We should focus on risk mitigation strategies such as masks, cohorts, staggered start times, and the like. If we have to continue with remote learning, we should be required to meet statutorily set learning standards so our kids don't fall further behind. As far as transportation goes, another point here that may be hard to believe is that Washington State spends more on paperwork than it does on pavement. That's both good and bad. Bad because that's just insane, but good because it's also a problem that should be fixable. The 10th LD is a transportation-heavy district. We have lots of state roads, bridges, not to mention a few ferries, and we need to fight for our share of transportation dollars and prioritize that spending. Last but not least, I believe in balance and I'm willing to work across the aisle. When in Olympia, I'm going to have an open door policy and I'll listen to anybody, including those I disagree with. While we may not agree on everything, I'm a firm believer that open dialogue can help us reach better solutions. Thank you.
Challenges? Seeing no challenges, we'll proceed to the second question for Angie. We are all aware of how the coronavirus has had a devastating impact on our lives. What are your plans to help businesses recovering from COVID-19?
I've owned and operated a small business here in Oak Harbor, and I know that the small business and local businesses are a backbone to our economy and our communities. They also are the hardest hit by COVID-19. I think the first and most important way to help our people and our businesses recover is to prevent the spread of the disease in the first place. Protective restrictions are difficult, but the alternative is worse, both in human and economic costs. I will advocate for continued federal aid, extending our rental assistance and putting a hold on evictions, Paycheck Protection Program, and the SBA debt relief and back loans. For state programs, I will continue to advocate for free testing, monitoring, treatment, and as well as personal protective equipment that's produced and warehoused here in Washington State. Our current B&O taxes are already challenging, especially now we'll have added overhead and operating costs due to the extreme needs for sanitation. I'll support applying B&O taxes only to net and not gross revenues and expanding access to high-speed internet to help our businesses. Regressive taxes mean local businesses struggle. The free market isn't free when some pay more than their fair share and others pay nothing. Business recovery, balancing the state budget, and fair taxation are connected. Most employees and business owners should pay less, while big winners should pay their fair share, especially when they're winning at our expense. State forecasts a $9 billion shortfall over the next 2 bienniums, and unlike federal government, our state government must have a balanced budget 4 years forward. This means we're facing painful cuts. I will consider revenue and spending in conjunction with mandates and vital public services and set these priorities. A statewide affordable public and mental health care system, well-planned land use and development that protects our Northwest Washington quality of life, investing in Washington-made and grown jobs, and bringing the 10th LD share of tax dollars home to our district for transportation improvements, ferry service.
And once again, same question to Greg. We are all aware of how the coronavirus has had a devastating impact on our lives. What are your plans to help businesses recovering from COVID-19?
Thank you for that question. The first step is to solving this problem would be to stop the bleeding and by letting companies reopen and get back to business. Now, this does not mean throwing the doors wide open and allowing a free-for-all. Rather, minimum safety standards should be set, and if a company can meet those guidelines, then they should be allowed to resume operations regardless of what sector they're in. As it stands, the guidelines and rules are way too arbitrary. They pick winners and losers, and they conflict with one another in many cases. As an example of this would be how mom and pop shops were forced to close while big box stores remained open. Another one is how private companies had to shut down while similar government operations remained open. The next step would be to lower taxes, or at the very least not implement any increases or new taxes. Washington does not have a revenue problem, we have a spending problem. Over the past 7 years, the state's budget has increased over 70%, which is not sustainable even before COVID. If the new taxes are implemented, as the other side is pushing for, it would be crushing to many businesses that are managing to hang on through this epidemic. The fact that we don't have an income tax is a huge incentive to attracting and keeping businesses, and that's one I'd hate to see go away. The state's rainy day fund has been raided and largely spent over the past couple of budget cycles. Imagine how nice it would be if we had truly prioritized saving money for a rainy day instead of spending every penny that we have. As an individual, as a small business owner, I have to live within my means. You have to live within your means. The state should also have to live within its means. Finally, the governor needs to call a special session now, which should have frankly been called back in June. The sooner we can take cost-saving measures, the better. The longer it's put off, the deeper the cuts will have to be in order to achieve the same results. We know we have a large deficit. We don't need to wait for September's budget revenue forecast. We should also not be waiting on Congress to act. With the election coming up, it's as if the governor is scared of the public knowing the truth about the state budget and that the Democrats' sole remedy is to simply raise everybody's taxes.
Challenges?
Yes, how do I go about that?
Just go ahead and state your
Go
challenge.
ahead and state your challenge.
So I would just like to ask Mr. Gilday, you speak to these businesses that would leave our state if we were to impose a tax. And we know that local Amazon, who has supported your campaign, along with several large businesses in the city of Oak Harbor, city of Seattle, including Alaska Airlines, Costco, Expedia, Microsoft, and so on, have all been willing and are willing to support a tax on the businesses. So, and which would actually help offset some of the struggles for affordable housing and homelessness that they feel partly responsible for. So I don't understand why, and maybe you can explain to us why you think these big businesses would flee our state when they're actually willing to contribute.
Right?
They may very well be willing to contribute to a certain amount, but the thing is that if you raise taxes enough, the thing is capital is movable. They can move this out of state where it's cheaper and is better off bottom line for them. And so while they say they're willing to absorb some of it, if we continue to have the mentality of we're just going to keep increasing taxes as a single party and majority has continued to do, we are going to continue losing these businesses to out-of-state areas.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll proceed to the third and final question. For Angie, if you could ask your opponent one question, what would it be?
So my question would be, my opponent speaks to wanting to promote schools in our state and transportation infrastructure. So, and that if we were to, that the Democrats are going to want to take funding away from schools. Schools are mandated by our Constitution, the funding for schools. So taking any money away from that to meet that mandate is not going to happen. And that is part of the constitutionally mandated part of our budget, which is about 70% of it. And the discretionary part, which is where all the cuts will have to come, includes such things as kidney dialysis for Medicaid. It includes foster care for children. It includes trying to provide for housing or childcare for mothers that need help. My question to Mr. Gilday is, where are you going to take these discretionary cuts if we're not going to find offsets to help pay for these desperate times?
Now the same question. Oh, go ahead, proceed.
Okay, so I'll start with the paramount duty aspect of it, that education is a paramount duty of the state. That is true. As I said before, Democrats have historically underfunded education, as we saw in the McCleary decision, which ruled that Democrat-passed state budgets were underfunding schools. And so they've done it in the past. There's no reason to believe that they're not going to do it again in the future. As far as other spending, we need, after we fund our education, which is the paramount duty again, we need to prioritize the spending and work our way down there. Now you asked for specific cuts and specific programs, and we could get into those, but the thing is we need to cut the things that we have no interest, no state control over. For example, we've done multiple $100,000 studies on removing the Snake River dams. That is outside of the state control. So why are we spending the money to do that when it's up to the Army Corps of Engineers? Another example of what we need to do is we need to get to a zero-based budgeting where in Olympia, it is custom to call it a budget cut when you don't get your anticipated increase in your budget. That's kind of like an employee complaining that he only got a $1 raise because he was expecting a $1.50 raise, and so he took a pay cut. No, it doesn't work like that. It's always ratcheting up. If we can get down, and departments in Olympia go on spending sprees towards the end of the fiscal year in order to get the money spent because they want to make sure that the legislature thinks that they need that money for the next year and that they can have increased budgets. We need to get away from that. We need to get down to a zero-based budget. We need to get to where we can actually prioritize our spending at Olympia. Thank you.
Now the same question, Rick. If you could ask your opponent one question, what would it be?
So my question would be that given that during your one term as a county commissioner, you voted to raise taxes at least 13 times. And during this campaign, you vocally given your support for instituting an income tax, a capital gains tax, a wealth tax, a carbon tax, a payroll tax to support universal health care. Are there any actual cuts you would actually consider, or are you relying solely on tax increases to fund your projects?
So first I want to speak to these increases at the county level 13 times. And I will just remind my colleague here that those 1% general fund and road taxes are necessary and they don't follow the inflationary rate, and not a single Republican county commissioner has ever denied them. They happen each year annually, so you multiply that. And then those having to do with the library districts are also mandated by law and come through the county commissioners, and if they are not increased, we're liable for lawsuits. As we made lots of cuts. When I served as county commissioner, I quickly figured out we would go insolvent as a county by the year 2018 if we did not reduce 20% of our expenses. And I brought together all department heads collaboratively with my fellow commissioners and elected officials to figure out how to go about thoughtful cuts so that we could continue to provide services to the community, and we did that. And we earned a AA bond rating in the process. So as we go forward at the state level, I will apply the same thinking to that process of how we're going to go about thoughtful services to our communities and keeping this state moving forward. I hope that answered the question.
Closing remarks, first to Angie.
Thank you so much, Chamber of Commerce. I'm running for this position because my conscience compels me to do everything in my power to care for today's, tomorrow's generations and defend the constitutional rights imperiled by modern politics, democracy, freedom from oppression, and the pursuit of happiness. Oak Harbor has been my family's home for 23 years, where our children attended public schools and my husband served our country as a naval aviator. I'm an architect and former carpenter, laborer, and machinist, and I have a deep appreciation for vocational schooling. To help preserve natural resources and to find a path forward for renewable energy, I founded an environmental nonprofit and earned a master's in environmental law and policy. When I took office in 2008 as a county commissioner, we were embarking on the Great Recession. The build or bust economy was bust, and our county was headed for financial collapse. I brought our meetings to the public and engaged them and worked collaboratively to analyze spending and revenues, and then corrected decades of bad fiscal planning while meeting mandates and vital public service safety nets, earning the county a AA bond rating in the midst of the recession. I will apply the same rationale and responsible approach in Olympia. I will bring experience, accountability, and compassion to this office. I respectfully ask you for your help and your vote. Please visit my website, angieforall.com. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
And closing remarks from Greg.
All right, thank you to the Oak Harbor Chamber of Commerce, the other candidates, and for everyone listening this afternoon. It's been a pleasure to be here. Okay, so the COVID shutdown is going to have far-reaching effects, and it's going to take years to resolve. This upcoming session is going to be unlike any other session before, and difficult discussions surrounding the budget, taxes, and services are going to be necessary. And I believe my background and leadership ability makes me the best candidate for this position. While I'm in Olympia, I'm going to fight to strengthen the K-12 education system, as well as our skilled trade pathways. This includes doing what's necessary to provide in-person instruction, or at a very minimum, have a robust online curriculum with measurable standards and not simply distance learning, which will allow our kids to fall further behind. I'm going to fight efforts to raise taxes. Again, we don't have a revenue problem here in the state. We have a spending problem. We need to prioritize our spending. I'm the only candidate in my race that's not going to rely on tax increases to address our mounting budget issues. I'm going to work across the aisle and listen to all parties. I've spoken with a lot of voters in the last couple of months, and one question I often get is, can I work with Democrats? And the answer is absolutely yes. I let them know that I've been married to one for the last 20 years, so I've had lots and lots of practice. I'll have an open door policy, And while we may not agree on everything, we can discuss the issues and perhaps come to better solutions. To learn more, you can visit my website, which is greggilday.com. Again, my name is Greg Gilday, running for State House of Representatives for the 10th LD, Position 1, and I respectfully ask for your vote. Thank you and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now for the candidates for the State Representative 10th District, Position 2. For Washington State Representative 10th Congressional District, Position 2, challenger Bill Bruch and incumbent State Representative Dave Paul. First question for you, Bill. If elected to office, what impact do you hope to achieve for our community and state?
Okay, so thank you very much, Oak Harbor Chamber, for putting on this event. I hope you saw in the chat there, I really apologize. For some reason, my video is not working. Since February, I think I've been on probably 2 to 3 dozen Zoom meetings, and this is the 3rd time I've had a technical issue. So I deeply apologize for that, but I guess we can pretend it's radio. So just real quick to answer the question there, our families and businesses live and work in a diverse, unique area of Washington State, and we must have a voice in the legislature that represents our district's interests and concerns. The majority party in King County is driving statewide policy that serves their interests, which are not necessarily our interests. If elected, I will fight the current big government, anti-business, tax and spend agenda. We need a representative that believes in less government control, free markets, and more freedom for individuals, families, and businesses, and someone who will stand up for property rights. I'm also passionate about school choice. School choice is a practical solution that allows parents to be directly involved in how their children are educated at the local levels. Currently, the cost per student for our public schools is about $16,000 per person per year. I'm advocating that parents receive $8,000 to $10,000 per child per year. Allowing students to be educated in home schools, private schools, trade schools, charter schools, or Christian schools would save taxpayers a lot of money and could be done with voucher programs. Also, I would like to see other financial credits and scholarships to low income, special needs, and active duty military. If elected, I will also be advocating that any action taken by the legislator to raise taxes may be taken only if approved by at least a 2/3 vote of both the House and Senate.
Now the same question for Representative Dave Paul. If elected to office, what impact do you hope to achieve for our community and state?
So thanks so much for that question. Can folks hear me okay?
Yes.
So I really thank you so much for hosting this event. Hi, I'm State Representative Dave Paul. Our family has lived in Oak Harbor for 12 years and we love being part of this community. I know many of you from my work at Skagit Valley College and our work on the Oak Harbor Educational Foundation. It's been a true honor to serve as your representative for the last 2 years. And if I'm reelected, I'm going to continue my work to listen and advocate for our community and continue to work in bipartisan way to help advocate for our community and continue to fight for investments for our community. So my education experience really helps ground my work in thinking about how to help local businesses. Would love to continue our work to help expand apprenticeship and have local businesses participate more in apprenticeship programs. Who better to train the workforce of our future than the small businesses here today? I spent a lot of time over the last 2 years listening to leaders in our community about what investments would be most important to them, which would be most meaningful. And to give you one example, when I met with Mayor Severns, when I met with the City Council, they talked about the need to help revitalize our marina in Oak Harbor, and that could be a gateway to bring more tourists and more people to businesses on Pioneer and also Midway. So we worked with the Department of Commerce. Oak Harbor got that grant. I think a lot of folks were surprised that we were able to get that so quickly. Then I worked with the city to make sure that that was implemented well. I think that's just one example of how I've listened and then advocated for our community. And my work in the legislature has been very bipartisan. Most of my bills, the second person on the bill is a Republican. And I will just continue to be a cheerleader for our community, for businesses in Oak Harbor and throughout the 10th District. Thank you so much.
Challenges? Seeing no challenges, we will proceed to the second question for Bill. We are all aware of how the coronavirus has had a devastating impact on our lives. What are your plans to help businesses recovering from COVID-19?
It's time for our governor to end his declared state of emergency so we can get small businesses up and running again. We need our businesses open and doing business so we can pay our mortgages, rent, and employees to have a thriving economy again. All businesses are essential, especially for the business owners and the employees. We can be safe and at the same time stay open for business. It's simple. We need to lift the restrictions and get people back to work and minimize our economic losses. The best thing we can do in the legislature to facilitate this is to cut taxes and regulations that hurt business and working families. As a candidate, I signed the Taxpayer Protection Pledge. It's a pledge to the taxpayers of Washington State saying that I will oppose and vote any and all efforts to increase taxes. I would like to lower B&O taxes, sales taxes, property taxes, gas taxes, and offer various tax exemptions and tax credits where and whenever possible.
Now, same question for Representative Paul.
Thank you so much. That's a great question and something that means a lot for our chamber and our community. So, my work both in the legislature and as a community member has really influenced how I think about this. So at the community college at Skagit Valley College, I also serve as the college's representative on the Economic Development Council. And that helps me better understand the work that's already been done to help our businesses in our community. And then I've spent a lot of time talking to business owners about what they need. And some of the business owners have been surprised. They've actually done fairly well over the last 3 or 4 months as folks are staying here on the island. Their businesses have grown. So I think the key is to focus on the businesses who need the help. I think work that this chamber has done in other organizations to help those businesses is critical. I remember during the Great Recession, I think Jill Johnson was still chamber executive, and she brought in a speaker that was talking about how to help businesses pivot, to help them take advantage of opportunities that were there. And providing that expertise and listening to chambers and listening to businesses about what sort of training they need to help mom and pop operations, I think is critical. We're going to need to look at how to reboot our tourism and looking at perhaps ways of giving businesses the lodging taxes that are currently going to the state or going to promote tourism during these tough economic times. Then I also think it's important to recognize that thriving communities depend on having thriving healthcare systems as well. So I've worked with our local hospital provider. I've worked with our local doctors to make sure that their reimbursement rates are fair to help strengthen and keep healthcare on Whidbey Island, which is part of the quality of life of our island. Thank you so much for that question.
Challenges? Seeing none. Third and final question for Bill. If you could ask your opponent one question, what would it be?
Yeah, so over the course of the 2019 and 2020 legislative sessions, you missed 152 votes. This is not a stellar voting record. How do we know that you will not miss another 152 votes if you're reelected to be our representative?
Yeah, thanks for that question. Can you folks still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, so we're a part-time legislature, and I also work at Skagit Valley College. So in the 2019 session, I missed a day's worth of votes because of a college commitment. The lesson I learned from that was to make sure to schedule those. We actually moved those college meetings so that I wouldn't have that issue again. This past legislative session, unfortunately, I was hospitalized in the last week of the session and ended up missing most of the last week. I started having intestinal bleeding on a Friday, missed votes that day, and then came back on Saturday and Monday, but ended up being hospitalized for the rest of the session. And that was a really painful experience. You know, it was also, I think, helped me be a better legislator in some regards. So I was hospitalized during COVID. Both of the hospitals I was at shut down to visitors while I was there. And understanding what that's like with healthcare providers scared, patients scared. I just think, I'm not happy I missed those votes, but I do think that that was an important perspective. It'll make me a better legislator for next session.
Now for our third and final question for Representative Paul. If you could ask your opponent one question, what would it be?
Sure. So thanks for giving me that opportunity. So Bill, we've had 170,000 Americans die from COVID. Just this past week, we saw in the paper, a 24-year-old, a South Whitby graduate, died from COVID. You stated multiple times that there's no emergency. You said on May 8th that COVID is a huge fraud. Do you still feel there's no emergency? With so many people sick and so many fatalities and so many business closures, do you regret encouraging residents not to take the pandemic more seriously?
Yeah, thank you, Dave, for your question. So first of all, just for clarification, 170,000 people have not died from COVID. They have died with COVID. And that's one of the issues that I have with this whole situation is that COVID is absolutely a very real virus. We know that. But if you follow the science and if you follow the doctors, and there's thousands of them out there right now, they're saying it's nothing more than a serious influenza type virus. And personally, I think the collateral impacts of devastating the economy to keep punishing small businesses with draconian mandates, it's not worth it. We've had a 600% increase in suicides. We've had so many more issues with legal challenges regarding the governor's lawsuits going on right now. There's problems right now with this COVID narrative. Now, if you say that I called it a fraud, that I may be taken out of context. I have quoted lots and lots and lots of people that have called it a fraud. It is a very real virus. I'm not disputing that. But the issues that I have with it is it's not being fully, you have to have the full story. For instance, why did the Department of Health, the Washington State Department of Health, take away the 60 to 69, or I'm sorry, the 70 to 79-year-old categories 3 weeks into this virus? I was tracking it. We were finding out almost all the people that have died with the virus, not from with the virus, were over age 80, some over age 90, a lot of in nursing homes. And I think a lot of people started seeing that it wasn't as serious as what we had thought. And the narrative is changing. I met originally with legislators who were talking about 300,000 people dying in our state. That never happened.
Challenges? Seeing no challenges, closing remarks. First, with Bill.
Okay, yeah, thanks again to the Oak Harbor Chamber of Commerce for putting the candidate form on, and all the other candidates and everybody else listening today. I'm a former LaConner Town Council member and a small business owner with 30 years of practical business experience who will fight for an honest and transparent government and who will respond to your concerns. Last legislative sessions, Democrats raised billions in new taxes, hurting working families and businesses. I will resist these efforts and work to end decades of destructive one-party rule. I'm a strong supporter of Whidbey Island Naval Air Station, and I adamantly oppose the law requiring mandatory sex ed beginning in kindergarten that my opponent voted for. I will fight against oppressive government mandates and regulations that harm all of us. I want to represent you in the legislature so that I can stand up for your rights. We need to get our state government back to working for the people, not dictating over them. If you send me to Olympia, I will be your voice and promise to work hard for you, and I humbly ask for your vote. Thank you.
Now closing remarks from Dave.
Hi, folks. Thanks so much. Sorry, I turned off my camera. My daughter came into our laundry room to get her computer.
That's fine.
So, hi, folks. I'm State Representative Dave Paul again, and I know many of you from our work here in the community. I'm an educator and a parent and a husband. We lived in Oak Harbor for 12 years, and we love being part of this community, love the quality of life it offers. You know, my work at Skagit Valley College and with the Oak Harbor Educational Foundation has really grounded my work in Olympia. One of the first things we set out was to fix graduation requirements, talking to local businesses, we knew that we had employees that weren't graduating from high school because they hadn't passed a lab-based class. And it just seemed ridiculous. I've advocated for more resources to help a student earn college credit while still in high school. So most of you know about our Running Start program. I think Autumn Parks, who's running our audio today, participated in that. And we have so many students who can't participate because they can't afford the textbooks. So I fought to get a bill passed to do that. And this upcoming year, I'm pleased that residents in Island and Skagit County are going to have $32,000 to help pay for textbooks for Running Start. That will be announced later this week. Now more than ever, we need leaders who prioritize public health. We need leaders who are going to fight for lower prescription drug costs. And we need leaders who are going to work in a bipartisan manner and listen to everybody in their district. And I've done just that. I hope I can earn your vote. Thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you. Next, we invite our county commissioners, candidates District 1. For Melanie Bacon, your first question: if elected to office, what impact do you have to achieve what impact do you hope to achieve for our community or state?
Well, thank you, Oak Harbor Chamber. Do you hear me all right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, wonderful. So what I want to do is share with you a summary of my 10-year vision for Island County. And so in 2030, Island County will be viewed as a national model for how to achieve a modern economy nestled within a strong, protected rural community. And will be recognized nationally for our emergency preparedness and our smart management and mitigation of climate change-related environmental impacts. We will have more and healthier trees than we do today. Our streams and our aquifers will be protected. Our parks and trails will be treasured and cared for. Recycling will be simple, and citizens will have easy access to compost their bioplastics and their food waste. Island Transit and all of our government services will rely on electric and hydrogen-powered vehicles, and electrical charging stations will be available throughout the county. We will have pedestrian ferries at several port locations for the convenience of our tourists and our citizens. Small builders will have created a few new small housing projects, mixed income and mixed use, and we will be able to reliably house our teachers and nurses and other key workers, as well as our retail and service workers. Telecommuting entrepreneurs will conduct their businesses online through our state-of-the-art fiber optic broadband network. Young families will move here to make their homes and raise their children. The citizens of Island County and the Navy will work together and trust one another as neighbors, and citizens will consider Island County government a pleasure to work with. If we have achieved these things by 2030, I will consider my 2 terms as county commissioner a success. Thank you.
Thank you. And now the same question for Damian. If elected to office, what impact do you hope to achieve for our community or state?
Hello, and thank you to the chamber. There we go, there's the clock. Damian Green, Island County Commissioner, running for District 1. I desire to elevate our quality of life without increasing our financial burden. We need to be good stewards and take care of what we have before we spend money on things that not everybody needs. I have many cost-saving ideas, and they're available in more detail with this limited time here to look at through my website, electdamian.com, or on my Facebook page, the campaign to elect Damian. So first, I would like to return salmon to the Max Walton Creek down here in South Whitby. This will increase the value of our outdoor classroom, salmon, feed the sea lions, orca, and fishermen, and this would also increase the valuable tax property being lost to becoming a wetland. For some reason, my computer went blank on me. Hopefully, you can still see my video and hear me.
Fine, thank you.
Okay, great. Additionally, I would like to work on advocating for transportation issues from life-saving stoplights that we need here on South Whitby and roundabouts to issues affecting those islanders with off-island commutes. I believe we can better utilize ferries and trains for all the residents in Island County, North End and Camano. And these ideas would serve everybody and help eliminate on a statewide basis, since the question was asking for state, that traffic congestion happening on I-5 and Highway 2. Additionally, with that plan that I have, we might be able to add some additional parking for the ferry system down here in Mukilteo. I don't want to let what's happening in Seattle come to our county. I'm a strong supporter of law enforcement and businesses and working for safe streets and safe parks. And we just need to be a better.
Challenges? Okay, seeing none, Vicki, thank you. We'll proceed to our second question from Melanie. We are all aware of how the coronavirus has had a devastating impact on our lives. What are your plans to help businesses recovering from COVID-19?
Well, as Helen Price Johnson said, the county is working very hard to help with economic recovery. We received $4 million from the state, and we allocated $2 million of it to give out as grants to businesses suffering from the impacts of the pandemic. And we also gave money directly to citizens to help with housing needs. And now we're waiting to see how much of the funds will remain after public health initiatives have played out. And then we're hoping that at that time to make more of the remaining funds available to businesses. Now, the county commissioners are also working very hard to keep Island County in phase 3. We are the only county within 100 miles to be in phase 3. And that means our citizens can connect with their friends more, and businesses have more freedom to see customers than in other local counties. The county is in phase 3 now only because your current county commissioners have made it a priority from the very beginning to stay on top of our data and the governor's directives and make the hard choices when necessary. My priority next year as county commissioner will be to continue the trajectory that today's county commissioners have established, to stay on top of the data and be alert to both the citizen safety and their rights, to be open to all new ideas and opportunities, and be ready to take any action immediately as opportunities arise to help citizens and businesses as those opportunities become available. And I've been working with the commissioners on initiatives like these for 5 months now, and I'm prepared to continue with that very, very important work. Thank you.
Now, same question for Damian. You know, we're all aware of how the coronavirus has had a devastating impact on our lives. What are your plans to help businesses recovering from COVID-19?
Try it now, Dad.
Okay, now it came back up. Oh, great, thank you. So sadly, the real devastating impact may be too late for many businesses. And I'd like to let you know that I reached out to some constituents who own businesses and asked them that same question. And one of the responses I got back, I felt was really what we're looking at here, and I'd like to take a second and read that. It says, I am really concerned that the county is putting together a task force to make sure businesses are complying to state mandates. A lot of other counties have, and this would not be helpful for struggling businesses. I would suggest they do a better job at informing businesses via email, letters, and such on what to and what is required of them instead of creating a whole new task force to go into businesses and interrupt them with their businesses. So basically what we're saying here is we're a free market society and businesses should have the opportunity to succeed. In order to succeed, business owners know what they need. They know that they need to protect their customers. They know how to do that, and they're the best ones available to do that. Each business is different. So if we let them have that opportunity, innovation will strive out here and be successful. They don't want to fail, and we just need to let them have the opportunity to be successful. Additionally, continuing to give money towards these businesses has got to come to some sort of stop because the county is also suffering from a loss of funds and the state is going to have a loss of funds. And as Greg said earlier, the state has a spending problem, not a revenue problem. And so I don't think we need to cut taxes. We just need to watch what we're spending on and let businesses thrive on their own. Thank you.
Thank you.
Challenges? Seeing none, now to our third and final question for Melanie. If you could ask your opponent one question, what would it be?
Well, I'd say, Damian, I've watched your videos and I admire your support of the orca tokite and of salmon recovery at Max Welton. And I myself am deeply concerned about salmon recovery to feed orcas. And I actually personally donate every month to plant 24 trees per month to restore salmon habitat. But in one of your videos, you state opposition to the county allocating money in their budget to purchase development property on behalf of the citizens in order to protect our natural resources. And it sounds to me like you oppose the county support of the Whitby Camano Land Trust and the Island County Conservation Futures funding, which just last year expanded the Kettles Trail Park, acquired the Pearson Shoreline, and expanded the Strawberry Point Preserve in North Whitby. And speaking of salmon recovery, in 2010 and 2015, one of the recipients of County Conservation Futures funding was the Whitby Camano Land Trust project in Dugawalla Bay, which is one of our region's most important areas for salmon recovery. Island County residents love living here because of our parks, our trails, our woods, our beaches, and our other natural spaces. And they love our wildlife and sea life, who need our protection in order to thrive. The citizens expect the county to protect our natural resources, and they understand that sometimes that means the county has to buy environmentally vulnerable land on the citizens' behalf in order to keep it out of the hands of developers. So I would ask him, Damian, do you disagree that it is our responsibility as county commissioners to protect our rural environment?
Oh, obviously not. We are supposed to protect our natural resources. That's one of the jobs of the county commissioners. What I'm saying is, and I think it's pretty well laid out here, is that we have neglected now for over 15 years, like the Max Welton Creek and the salmon and the orca and the outdoor classroom and everything that comes with that, and taking care of what we have. We are supposed to be good stewards and take care of what we have. And instead, we're working on things like a bike trail for $3.5 million from Clinton to Kent's Corner. That doesn't benefit everybody compared to what we have going on. We're spending money to $2.5 million to buy a small area of land that is just for kayakers. I agree that it's great to do and it's awesome to do, but we can't do that until we've taken care of what we have. And that goes on to saying things like the Mutiny Bay Marina. Right down here at the Clinton Dock and Pier, where we have a pier that we can't even use for 7 to 10 years because we haven't taken care of that. So those are the things I'm talking about. It's taking care of what we have first before we go investing or spending money, taxpayer money, to buy things that we haven't thought about the process or how to afford them in the future. It just creates more money, and it's a loss of tax money through the tax roll by buying these properties. So that's what I'm saying. Take care of what we have first. Be good stewards before we go and buy more things.
Now, third and final question for Damian. If you could ask your opponent one question, what would it be?
Well, as she laid out her 10-year plan, and I looked at her website a long time ago, it had highlighted the fact that she had part of her plan was to protect Island County from the rising sea. And I didn't really see what that plan entailed, which was, you know, to me, was that like taxpayers or homeowners are going to have to increase a bulkhead 4 or 5 feet or something like that and lose their first floor view. But overall, Melanie has this great plan for 10 years. And so my real question is, there's no way that I see in her plan how it's going to be paid for or what the cost is. So I'm asking Melanie, and before I do ask you, Melanie, I should say congratulations on getting into the Island County Commissioner one race for the general election. Congratulations. So with that, I would like to know, how do you plan to afford the ideas that you have laid out over the next 10 years, and how much will it cost?
Well, with regard to the climate change, what the county has to do, Damian, we have to do a climate change inventory. We have to identify those properties and resources that are vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. And once we identify those properties and resources, then we will have to come up with a plan on how we're going to mitigate. I apologize, my phones are ringing in the house. I apologize for that. We're going to have to figure out a way to mitigate for those changes. And so until we know what those impacts are going to be, I can't answer your question. I don't know how to budget for it, but certainly we need to identify what those impacts are going to be, and we have to take action. We can't keep ignoring it.
Challenges? Seeing no challenges, we'll proceed to closing remarks. First from Angie.
Angie?
I'm sorry.
Melanie.
Melanie, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Copy. Sorry about that.
Again, I apologize.
Melanie, proceed.
Just making sure you're still awake.
Okay. So the Island County Commissioners are in effect the CEOs of a $110 million company with 500 employees. And I was an executive and manager in the corporate world. And now for the last 10 years, I've been the HR director in Island County. And I know more about how Island County government operates than probably any other county commissioner candidate has ever known before they were elected to office. During the pandemic, I've been working closely with the commissioners, and I spent a great deal of my time now in conversations about how will our county look like in 6 months, in a year? What jobs will we lose funding for? How do we reset our budget expectations? How do we serve citizens through the rest of 2020 and into 2021? The county is in for a rough ride next year due to loss of revenue, and I am prepared to lead us through it. You might also be interested to know that I am the only military veteran running for county commissioner in either district. For 3 years during the Cold War, I intercepted foreign intelligence as a member of the United States Army Security Agency. I understand the pride of serving and the reality of service. I will serve you well as your Island County Commissioner. I ask for your endorsement and your vote. You can learn more about me at melaniebacon.com, and you can email me at electmelbacon@gmail.com. Thank you very, very much, Oak Harbor Chamber of Commerce and everyone watching.
Melanie, thank you. Now closing remarks from Damian Green.
Thank you to the Oak Harbor Chamber of Commerce and Whitby Tech Solutions for putting this forum on and giving us the opportunity to speak with everybody today. That's just been great. I've been elected to the South Whitby School Board of Directors for 3 times now, dealing with a $20 million budget and over 200 employees. And of course, everyone knows the school district is based on the number of students. And so we are losing students, which means we are losing funding. And I've been mitigating that loss of funding in very innovative ways, from energy efficiency implementation to reutilization of facilities and being rented out and generating over $300,000 a year in annual revenue. So I'm the only candidate here that's been elected and has a voting record of being bipartisan here in the South Whitby district, which would then extend as a bipartisan to the whole entire Island County. I'm a lifelong resident with deep roots here, and as I said, I'm a supporter of law enforcement. My dad was a state trooper, and I have some great stories about that, and you can see those on my video. My door's always been open. I was a 25-year business owner here in Washington as an insurance agent, and it's always open, and you're always welcome to come talk to me. I'm very approachable. I'm like you. I want what's best for the community, a thriving business, safe, clean neighborhoods and streets, and I look forward to serving you as the Island County Commissioner, and I kindly ask for your support and your vote. And you can reach out to me and contact me if you have any questions through my website, electdamian.com, or through my Facebook page, which is simply the Campaign to Elect Damian Green, Island County Commissioner. Thanks again for having us today, and I really appreciate meeting everybody here in the near future. Thanks.
Damian, thank you. Next, we invite our county commissioner candidates, District 2. Yeah. First for Dan Evans, then Commissioner Jill Johnson. Dan, first question to you, sir. If elected to office, what impact do you hope to achieve for our community and state?
Well, first, I'd like to thank you for having me. My name is Dan Evans. I'm a single father of 4 daughters. I'm a small business owner here in Oak Harbor, and I'm the president of the board for our Oak Harbor Main Street Association. In the course of this campaign, I've spoken with many of our community members, and the most common theme that comes up is the lack of transparency, and that our current elected officials are not engaging with the community to hear their concerns and desires for the future of our county. That is, in fact, the reason I'm running for county commissioner. I'm asking you to vote for me to be your representative and your advocate for the county. As your commissioner, I will be spending a lot of time out in the community, working with our local business organizations, such as the Chamber of Commerce and our Main Street associations. And I will also be making myself available at Whitby Coffee on a weekly basis for our community members to easily and openly discuss their concerns. Frequent conversations with business owners and our community members will allow me to make good decisions based on what our community actually wants and needs. As an advocate, I understand that some community concerns do not fall on the county, but I also believe that there is not a limit to leadership. I will utilize the position as county commissioner to advocate for our community members at the city, state, and federal levels of government to keep our businesses open, our traffic flowing, and to maintain our beautiful community. I think all of us hope that when we elect someone, we truly hope that they will be representing our community. And that's what my promise to you is. If you elect me as your county commissioner, I will be your advocate and I will be a true representative of our community, regardless of your political party. Thank you.
Now, same question posed for Commissioner Jill Johnson. If re-elected to office, what impact do you hope to achieve for our community and state?
I think you got to get the timer fixed first.
Okay. Yes. We'll stand by, and once the clock gets resolved, and we'll have 2 minutes ready for you, Jill.
I mean, I'm a fast talker, but.
Understood. Gotta get a reset. Reset. There we go. Okay, Jill, stand by. All right, we'll repose the question. If elected to office, what impact do you hope to achieve for our community and state?
So when talking about the community that you serve as Island County Commissioner, you serve all of Island County, Whidbey and Camano Island. And so although you always bring the lens of your district to conversation, your obligation isn't just to serve a single interest. And so I will continue with that broad view approach of making sure that the county citizens as a whole are represented and that the view of my district is always at the table. As an incumbent, it's difficult to have broad visions, because what happens when you're in the job is that you start to understand the administrative responsibilities that go on with it. Your first term, you're learning a lot, policies, who are the people, who can you trust, where do you go to get things done? Now that I've been there longer, I want to continue this path of quality improvement for the county, making sure our policies are consistently applied, that you have good customer service at every counter, and that kind of administrative consistency between departments needs to have leadership around it. And you don't see it when you first come into office, but it directly impacts the type of service and the results that the community sees. I'd like to continue our efforts to make our services available online so that people don't need to come into the office. And then this morning I was on a 2-hour Zoom call around behavioral health, working at the state level to try to ensure that local governments have the resources they need to deal with the most vulnerable people in our community without utilizing law and justice and the jails as our only source of response. And so I'm very vested in those conversations. I'd like to continue working on those conversations because I believe that it's in the best interest of our community to use our resources wisely. So that's what I will do in the next 4 years.
Challenges? Seeing none? We'll proceed to the second question. For Dan, we're all aware of how the coronavirus has had a devastating impact on our lives. What are your plans to help businesses recovering from COVID-19?
Thank you. So as a small business owner and as the president of our Main Street Association, I've witnessed a lot of how this is affecting our small businesses and in my own. We did have to shut down my agency, and all my staff were working from home for a considerable amount of time, which did affect their lives and the productivity of business. But one of my concerns is that currently our elected officials at all levels have been implementing guidelines and regulations more on a blanket approach without much concern about the unique operational aspects of each independent business type. It's not working. we need to keep our local businesses open and operating. We need to work with our local business owners to get ideas of how their specific business type can operate at its highest level while maintaining a safe environment. Blanket mandates just don't make sense. As the county commissioner, I would be out in the community working with these business owners to identify what we can do at the county level to help them be most productive. Down on Main Street on Pioneer Way, we got out and we spoke to those businesses to find how we could help them. And one of the things that was most popular was to open the doors and get people out onto the streets. So we implemented our Open Air Thursdays event. So we've seen a drastic increase in pedestrian traffic downtown, coming down and enjoying our businesses. We've seen an increase in revenue coming into those businesses. And we've been able to do it while maintaining a safe environment. So as your county commissioner, I feel that communication is key, and that's exactly what I will do for you. Thank you.
Now, same question for Jill. No, we're all aware of how coronavirus has had a devastating impact on our lives. What are your plans to help businesses recovering from COVID-19?
Well, as stated by Commissioner Price Johnson and Melanie Bacon, the county has already been actively working to help businesses recover. We did allocate the $2 million of economic recovery money and safety net dollars. Immediately when the businesses were shut down, we suspended fees that were collected from restaurants to the tune of $150,000 of revenue impact to the county, but we wanted to give our businesses a sign that we were with them. I have sent frequent emails and made frequent phone calls advocating on behalf of businesses about the inconsistencies in the governor's mandates that are coming down. The county commission actually has not set any mandates for local businesses. Those are coming from the governor. And so what we try to do is push really hard on behalf of our businesses to get the state to see things from that perspective. The other piece of that is that we pushed hard. And when I say we, I mean, I pushed hard. That tone and temperament you hear sometimes about, I pushed hard to get us to phase 3, to get our businesses open. And the most important thing we can do now is take the safety precautions that are required to keep our businesses in phase 3. They're already at a modified phase 2.75, if you will. But we have to take the governor's mandate seriously, because he will make blanket requirements across all businesses, and that is not controlled by the county commissioner. So we're trying to communicate those metrics, let businesses know and customers know and community members know what we need to achieve to stay fully operational. And whether you agree with the governor or not, that's the structure that's in place. And as county commissioners, we're working within it to try to protect our businesses and keep them open. And I feel like that's the single most important thing that we can do.
Challenges? Seeing none, now third and final question. For Dan, if you could ask your opponent one question, what would it be?
Well, I guess I could ask Commissioner Johnson about her continued support of the illegally zoned Lehigh project in the middle of our downtown retail district, or about the public meeting where her constituents expressed their concerns about the zoning of that same project, and she informed those constituents that they don't know anything about zoning. I could ask why she did not communicate with her constituents before spending $1 million on a piece of property for a multi-county drug stabilization center that's placed in the middle of one of our residential neighborhoods. But at this point, I guess the question I have for Commissioner Johnson is, can we count on you for a smooth transition as we begin the work to improve our county come January?
Well, I plan on transitioning smoothly because I'll be there, Dan. But thank you for the opportunity to state my intention. You know, I heard the passive aggressive digs about my support of a low income housing project and the zoning and of a stabilization center, and a lot of assumptions made around these different conversations. First of all, I support the low income housing project. It houses income eligible workers, and it requires the housing of 25% or 50% of that has to be for veterans, so 25 houses for veterans. And it's hard for me to understand how the community wouldn't support that. I also understand that the location was a concern. The city of Oak Harbor interpreted the zoning code and said that was an allowable use in that area. I am not the planning director for the city of Oak Harbor. I support the low-income housing project in any area that is legally allowed to go based on the code and the zoning. If it can't go there, I support it in another location that it can go. If it can go there under the code gives the property right the entitlement to use their property the way that the code allows them to. That's just fundamental property rights. The same is true about the $1 million purchase of land that the county bought. It was on the market. We bought it to site affordable housing is the original intention. And we utilized the code that said that you could build something with a conditional use. A conditional use includes skilled nursing facilities, schools, churches. So you should know that any piece of property vacant next to you has the possibility of a conditional use going on it. That's actually in the code. And we work through the process to do that. So I understand that nobody called you and asked you for your permission, Dan, but that is what representative government is.
Now our third and final question for Jill. If you could ask your opponent one question, what would it be?
How come you're starting with me?
Excuse me?
No, that was to you, John. We got off system a little bit.
Okay, so Dan, this is Jill.
Yep.
That's right.
So Jill, it's to you. Dan's question, any question asked of you, that was of you. Now it's your time to ask Dan any question.
Well, John, that's why you're asking the question of me.
That's correct.
Sorry about that.
That's quite all right. 2 minutes.
I have a number of them. You talk a lot about changing the tone of county government to better reflect the values of our local constituency. Yet the tone you use to describe me, even in your voters pamphlet statement, is childish, blatantly disrespectful, unprofessional, and your supporters are participating, and your supporters have started an anybody but Jill campaign. Focus on me as an individual, not on the needs of the county or the issues related to the county. Just anybody other than her is who we want. How are people supposed to trust you to change the tone of county government if you are running a campaign of personal attacks and not a campaign based on the issues of the county?
I appreciate the question, Jill. So the reason that I describe you in that way, Jill, is that's the way that you've presented yourself to the public. My first engagement with you was at the Lehigh Public Meeting at the Senior Center, where you came out and advised the public that they were not knowledgeable enough on zoning issues for them to be involved in the meeting. At the end of that meeting, you may recall, you came out and apologized for calling your own constituents stupid. You also apologized that sometimes you say things before thinking. That is what I'm referring to. In regards to my supporters making comments, well, they are my supporters. I do not control what they say or what their opinions are. I think you do. You've earned what you've gotten. My supporters, to my knowledge, have nothing to do with anybody but Jill. I'm not actually sure who runs that, but I do know some people that are for it. But as you know, you can only control yourself and your own message. Your supporters support you or they support me, and that's their decision, not mine. Thank you.
And can we do a challenge on that?
Yes, you may.
So I appreciate what you said. However, I know that people reach out to you directly asking you to disavow statements made by your top supporter, Scott Thompson, the developer of the Rights Crossing project, where he called my family a failure, criticized me for not having children, misrepresented my family's financial status, called me bipolar, and I think there was another one where he referred to me as the devil herself. And when you did not respond to those individuals who reached out to you directly to disavow those statements, if my supporters spoke about you that way and someone approached me, I would speak to my supporter and say, that is not how we treat people in this county. Why did you not disavow those statements?
I do believe in the freedom of speech, Jill. People have the right to their own opinions. As you can see in the post that you're referencing, they did speak that this is their opinion and their opinion alone. I do not dictate what people say. I never will. I'm here to listen. I'm here to help people. That's how I've always operated. That's how I always will. You'll notice I have never once personally attacked you, other than for things that you've done in public forums or at public meetings. And I will always maintain that same attitude.
All right. Time for closing remarks. Dan?
So first, I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for having us. I do appreciate the time. And Vicki, you're doing a fantastic job. My name is Dan Evans. I'm running for County Commissioner in the 2nd District. I do think it's time for a change. I don't believe that we're better off than we were 8 years ago, and I think that we can do better than we are. I appreciate all the support that I've received so far. I've received so many comments from people that we do need this change. And I want everybody to know that come January, if you are in the minority that did not vote for me, or you're part of the majority that did vote for me, I'm here to represent everyone in Island County. I want to hear from you. And not just after I'm sworn in, but now. And the commitment I'm making is to being available and approachable. I will be at Whitby Coffee on Highway 20, Friday morning, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. each and every week from now until the end of my first term. So check out my website, friendsofdanevans.com, or come down and see me on Friday. I look forward to meeting all of you. And again, to the Chamber, thank you for having me.
Finally, closing remarks from Jill.
Well, I again want to thank the Chamber for this opportunity to speak. Vicki, John, you have the best voice for this, and Joel also for hosting. I announced my reelection on Valentine's Day because it was symbolic to me of the love I have for people and place. It's true that I sometimes can be passionate and have high expectations and push staff hard because I want the very best for all of us. I am equally critical and hard on myself. It's not a one-way direction expectation. It's that I want the best for us. I took a long time deciding if I was going to run for county commissioner again because I wanted to make sure that I had the right voice, that I had something to offer, and it took a lot of personal reflection, and I decided that I did, in large part because with Commissioner Price Johnson running for state senate, the single most experienced county commissioner will have written one budget, one county budget. That's all she knows about it. I've written 7. I'm on my 8th. We need steadfast and steady leadership in this time of uncertainty for our county. It's not a time for on-the-job learning. We need to know how to do our jobs. I have the experience to do it. And I feel like we are better off than 8 years ago, which you know if you lived here 8.
That concludes the questions for candidates for Island County Commissioner. Thanks to each of you for your commitment to community service and for being here today. This concludes our forum and today's Chamber program. The Chamber Board of Directors thank each of our candidates for participating and you, the constituent, for your presence. We urge you to exercise your right and obligation to vote.
And with that being said, today's mystery prize, the Chamber, whoops, if I can get my camera to go the right. Okay. So, do we have a winner? Yep. Do you want to show the prize? Yep. So go ahead and lift it. So it is My Vote Counts. So regardless as to what party, whether you're a donkey or an elephant, whether you're blue or you're red, you get to drink your wine to celebrate, or your wine if things don't go your way, snacks, but my vote counts, so please go out and vote. And our winner is Harry Turner. Congratulations. That's for the program going a little bit longer than planned, but thank you so much for coming out. Thank you so much for speaking your points, your actions. Just ask everyone, please go out and vote. Your vote counts. Change is only through voting. So please, and thank you so much for coming. Again, I apologize for it taking so long, but I really appreciate you taking the time to come to our forum today. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
You too.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.